Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. Thanks for stopping by. The 6th-ranked Miami Hurricanes win 36-14 over Florida State. They end that 3-game losing streak in the series. They also claim the Florida Cup, which is basically goes to the winner of Florida and Florida State and Miami, whoever has the best record. Miami's not had that since 2004, so really cool that they were able to do that. Coach Cristobal delivered a strong message at the end of his press conference about winning against Florida State and Florida, and really wanted to send that message to recruits. Here's Coach Cristobal and what he had to say about the win and its meaning.
Critically important, you know, to go out there and beat this program and to be undefeated in the state of Florida. I think it sends a strong message. I think the entire, all recruits in-state, out-of-state, can now clearly see the trajectory of this program versus the trajectory of the other programs.
Great. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my overall takeaways with this game, I'll talk about offense and defense, we'll break it down like that, but my overall takeaways from this game was I think it's certainly a good win. You know, they won comfortably. They were ahead. They were in complete control. And even though it was a little bit dicey at times with the offense, it was 14-7 at one point after Miami jumped it out to that early 14-0 lead. I never felt like Florida State was in any kind of control or really a serious threat with what they were able to do. I thought they were really struggling offensively. They did have that big long run on that quarterback sneak, which just is one of those odd plays. But it just never felt like they were really doing enough to really threaten Miami to pull off the upset. Again, I talked about this a lot with this team and Miami, that it's really going to take a lot to knock this team off. You're going to have to play well for 4 quarters, and even if you slow down Miami for a drive or two or score on them, you know, it just takes a lot for the whole game, and that's what you saw today. Just as the game went on, Miami just continued to pour on points and add to their lead, and they certainly could have done more, but they did have 3 straight series where they ended in field goals, and so I think that's one reason why the scoring was a little bit down, and that put them at 23-7 instead of, you know, the touchdowns that they had been getting. You know, coming into the game, I made a note in my notebook, my offensive notebook, that Miami's offense had been 11 of 12 in red zone opportunities, scoring touchdowns in ACC games. And that's a huge mark at 91%. To put that in perspective, last year Miami was at 50%. So that was not going to be sustainable throughout the whole season. And again, it didn't make a difference because Miami was able to score points. The defense played really well today. And again, I just think it's just an overall, just a really good win. In a rivalry game, Miami was a heavy favorite, but they came out strong and they were clearly the better team. They go to 8-0. And at this point in the season, you definitely want to improve. There's no doubt about that. You want to play well on both sides of the ball, all facets, special teams, you know, in your run game, pass game, offensive, defensively. You always want to play well, but I think it's just very important to get these wins and move on. You know, you've got a lot at stake, and really it's all about right now, it's all about getting to that ACC championship game, and it really looked like it is going to take a lot of wins. You know, at 7-1, you know, I don't know if it's going to cut it. At one point early in the year, it looked like it, you know, and maybe it will. I think maybe tiebreakers will come in, but not just how Clemson's been playing, but Pitt and SMU, they're right there in the mix as well. And those are the 4 ranked teams along with Miami in the ACC. So Miami stays afloat, they keep it moving, they get another win. And, you know, again, it was just a good win. There's not a lot of negatives I want to point out with this game because they did win, and they won by a comfortable margin. So starting with the defense, look, I thought they played great, and I thought this was a game that they definitely needed after allowing 39 points per game in ACC play, certainly way too high. And if you watched the last video I did about, you know, am I concerned with the defense? And one of the reasons why I was not concerned was I thought they were going to play better. And the quality of opponents coming up in the ACC schedule that they still had coming up with Florida State starting there and then going to Duke, and then also playing Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse to wrap it up. I just felt like Miami's defense was going to be playing better than what they had been, and that's what we saw tonight. They did a much better job of really converging on the quarterback, whoever was in there, as well as controlling the run game. And look, they did give up that quarterback sneak. It was a weird play, the 42-yard play. Maybe you are worried about it because it was another big play that the defense gave up, but to me, it's just one of those weird plays. You're not going to see that throughout the season. Even Florida State's not expecting to get that on a 4th-and-1 play, and it definitely spilled out. You don't want that to happen, but it did. It wasn't a huge deal in my mind because I don't think it's a glaring issue that they've got to correct moving forward. I think it was just one of those odd football plays that happened. The pass defense, certainly the pass defense stepped up today. Again, Florida State, I do understand Florida State's struggles coming into it. But other opponents that had been struggling or not been having these huge performances outperform how they've been doing during the season or in ACC play against Miami, and that's just not what happened today. And Miami did a great job of that. Florida State comes into the game, for example, they didn't have a 300-yard game of total offense or score more than 21 points in a game all season long, and they didn't do that against Miami. So the defense deserves a lot of credit. I thought it was good to see some pass breakups there in the secondary. Mish Powell had one, Jadis Richard. That was good to see. Jaden Harris, he almost had an interception, but it was good that he was around the ball and making plays there. They didn't get beat deep. They didn't allow the big passing plays. I know Douglas had one there on De'Andy Hill, but it wasn't just sustainable. It didn't just keep happening. And again, only allowing 14 points, giving up the late touchdown. Just overall, a good performance. I thought the defensive line did a good job too of, creating pressure and really making it difficult. There just didn't look like there was a lot of space for the Florida State offense to get going. And then also the linebackers. I definitely want to point them out. With Francisco Mauinoa and Wesley Besaint there. Mauinoa led the team in tackles with 7, had 3 solo tackles, and then Besaint was second on the team with 6 tackles, 4 solo tackles. So good to see the activity level out of those two guys. I think it's very important for those guys to play well. I feel like we're talking a lot about the defensive line, what we expect out of them, and then wanting to see improvement out of the secondary. But to me too, I don't want to leave out the linebackers because they're a huge part of this defense and they need to play well also, and especially because there's typically only 2 of them on the field at a time. Now flipping to offense, Cam Ward, 208 passing yards, not what you expect out of him. A little bit shaky at times. In his post-game press conference, he certainly felt like he could have made more plays, but it was good. He thought it was good to see the run game play well. It was his first game all season long that the rushing attack had more yards than the passing game. So, and for me, I'm okay with it because we know what Cam can bring to the table. To me, it was one of those games. I do certainly expect teams to, like what we saw against Florida State out here, I expect teams to drop their safeties and really make Miami beat them with underneath routes and really try to prevent a lot of big plays in the passing game the best that they can. And I think more teams will do that as the season goes on, and essentially make Miami run the ball. And what we've seen the last couple of weeks, they've done a good job of that. And I think it was good that Damian Martinez had a good game, 148 yards, reeled off that 53-yarder late in the game, 2 touchdowns. So good to see him kind of keep going and keep building. And Coach Cristobal mentioned he's mentioned it as, midway through the point of the season, but he felt like, with him and even Sam Brown, it was talked about too, these are guys that showed up in the summer and maybe just took a little bit of time to get things going for the both of these guys, to get acclimated to a new team. And maybe that's what we're seeing. Maybe we're starting to see some of this production. We saw Sam Brown last game against Louisville and Damian Martinez getting it going. So it's definitely good to see Damian have a good game. And then with Mark Fletcher, just great to see him out here and, finding success on the field. He had that touchdown to start this game off, and I know a lot of players and the coaches, the whole staff, the whole team, the whole program. I know supporters, the fans, anybody that follows this team can understand what that might feel like as Fletcher lost his dad earlier this week and still played. And definitely it was good to see him, again, have some success. I know it's just a very difficult time, so hopefully he's doing the best he can and continuing to get that support from everybody around him. But he's playing well. That is a positive, and he's contributing to wins. And a lot of his teammates just continue to say positive things about him. Coach Cristobal did in his post-game remarks, and you can understand what he means to this team. And certainly, I can imagine, Mark didn't speak to reporters after the game, but I'm sure the team means a lot to him as well. All right, just my final thoughts as I wrap this up here. They're getting the stadium and the field ready behind me, just getting ready for that Dolphins-Cardinals game tomorrow. And I will be here for that, so definitely looking forward to that. So I do need to get out of here and kind of get ready for the next event here. But just my final thoughts is, coming into the game, if you were to say some things that you'd like to see, I think you definitely say you want to see the run game do well. You want to see that continue. You want to see Martinez and Fletcher and guys have big runs, and you did see that today. So that's a positive. The 230 total rushing yards. So So that's good to see. And I think also the defense. I think coming into the game, you wanted to see the defense play well, especially because of how Florida State's offense had not been playing well. So you wanted to see the defense, just definitely dominate and have a good game, and that's what you saw. So those are the two things, those are my two major takeaways with it. I'm not concerned with the passing game, how some of those passes looked a little shaky at times as Ward was looking to kind of buy time and it just wasn't there and he had to throw the ball away. I'm not worried about that. Obviously, you'd like to see him go for 400 like he had been doing almost every game, but it didn't happen. Again, it's nothing to be worried about. I'm not concerned about it. I think he'll get back on track, and it can happen just next week against Duke when Miami returns here to Hard Rock Stadium. So overall, a good win. You should be happy about it. I think I was pleased with what I saw tonight, and just really, just overall, 8-0 is really impressive. I think sometimes we start to dissect wins and maybe what's not going right. Just the reality is this is a top 10 team, a team that has a chance to win its first conference title, and obviously just be able to have that opportunity to get to Charlotte for that. So overall, it's been great. It was also, I do want to leave you with this, great to see so many former Hurricanes out here. Ray Lewis and Michael Irvin, Jesse Armstead, just to name a few. Damian Barry was out here, Lamar Thomas, Rohan Marley. So a lot of positive guys out here and guys certainly supporting the program. So that's good to see. But also, drop in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this game. Were there some things that you were most excited about? And then also, what are you concerned about? What was something that in this game that you didn't like? What was some things that you're a little still worried about with this team? So definitely thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the weekend and take care.